Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dillon. I'm your host, joined by my blue collar badass, Matt. How's it going, my friend?
Things are good, man. It's been a crazy ass busy week so far, but busy in a good way. I'd rather be busy than not.
It seems to be the theme lately. I've talked to a lot of people and everybody is just slammed. So it's good.
It's good signs of things to come too.
For sure. Well, guys, today we have two special guests, Anthony and Nick Abbruzzese, and I probably butchered your last name, but you can correct me here in a minute, guys. Anthony and Nick worked alongside their father in their family flooring business for the last 20 years. Well, they've been in business for 20 years, and really Anthony and Nick are coming on to take it into the future. They're out of New York City, and I think you guys are going to be the first guys we've had on from New York. So that's going to be fun to hear about the New York market and how you guys do things there. But Anthony and Nick are really, they're brothers and have a decade of experience in the field. And we're talking about floors again today, but not in the products of installing them. We just had Pete on to talk about coatings and stuff, but of the actual installation of self-leveling cements, epoxies, concrete polishing, and all the systems that go into it. So Anthony and Nick, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thank you for having us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Glad you guys could join us. So I'm just going to jump right in because, we were talking a bit, Anthony, before we went live here about what we each do. And I'm in the Detroit, Southeast Michigan, Detroit market. You guys are in New York area. What can you tell me about New York? I've heard horror stories about working there as a contractor, and I've never done it. I've worked in upstate New York on some smaller projects here and there, but what are the challenges you guys see just in essence of working in the city?
So the real thing is that we don't know anything different than working in Manhattan. So everybody that's outside of it always says, oh man, it's a nightmare, the parking, this, that, the other thing. We're just so used to it at this point because me and my brother have been doing it since we were like 16, 17 years old. We've been driving in every single day, doing all this stuff. So it's all stuff that we're used to. But some of the challenges are like, the stereotypical stuff everybody always says. Parking is a nightmare. Traffic's a nightmare. Getting from point A to point B in Manhattan is a nightmare. It hasn't really been that bad since COVID because less traffic. But, that's the typical kind of things. And plus everything that you can think of that's on a construction site is amplified in Manhattan, where you have anything safety related is always 10 times more in Manhattan. Anything, you got to make sure that everybody has all their, OSHA cards and everything like that. That's like, it's just, everything is amplified in Manhattan, to the smallest detail. So, all the stereotypical stuff, plus, some other things that maybe you wouldn't think of, but, it's all, like I said, it's all stuff that we're used to.
Gotcha. You guys would probably come out to my neck of the woods and ask me how the hell we operate so slowly.
It is fast paced. It is very fast paced. Like if you don't move, like if you're not driving quick, if you're not parking quick, you gotta move around here.
Yeah. It's always interesting to me to talk to guys in the same or similar industries, because there's vastly different, dialects of business depending on where you're located, obviously.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It is different dialects, and we're all saying similar things, but slightly differently. And even in Manhattan, like it's like everybody wants everything done fast, right? Everything's fast. But then you have to reel it in to say like, okay, yeah, you want it done fast, but we don't want to sacrifice our quality.
Yeah.
So that's a conversation that we have very regularly.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So your dad started the company. What made you both decide to become a part of it and join the family business?
So we always knew in the back of our heads that it was going to be a fallback option. We both went to college, did the college route, graduated, but always even before college, high school, middle school, probably even, on summer vacations or winter breaks, we would always jump in the trucks with dad and the guys. And, you know, we started learning really young. So we always had in the back of our mind that it would be a fallback option if whatever we did after college didn't work out. And, you know, it's something that we know that our dad busted his ass for. To be honest, growing up, we really didn't see him much. He was always out, 7 days a week, nonstop, doubles, really didn't see him much at all. So we know that this was his baby, and we wanted to help him, you know, grow it and continue to just make it run more efficient than the way he was doing it. And by jumping aboard with him, we knew that would be, you know, very feasible.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. Like, I always had a real interest in everything that my dad was doing in this company, and it was always something that I loved doing. Like, I never dreaded going to work with him. He's like, "Oh, you want to work on a Saturday?" I was like, "Yeah, let's go." You know, and like Nick was saying, it was the thing that we got on board to do in this company was to help our dad. Like, because he, like Nick was saying, like, we didn't see him. We had a relationship with our dad only when we started working with him. Because like he was never at any of my wrestling meets, never at anything, you know, and that was because he was trying to build a business and support a family. So, you know, that's why when we came on, the biggest, I guess, core tendency or value for us was just like, take what dad did, build upon it, and grow it, because he sacrificed so much to get it to where it was at when we started coming on and working with him.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty typical in the industry, no matter what trade or scope you're in, right? Is you got to just grind it out for 10, 15 years, you know, until you can reach that level where you can kind of coast a little bit and, you know, take some time off. So your dad started, you said 20 years ago, is that correct?
Yeah, I would say definitely. We don't have like an exact, because like he was in landscaping and then also doing this at the same time, and then he transitioned out. So it was like in that region. So, you know, he was on and off with the landscaping when it was seasonal, and then doing this on the off season. So it was around there.
So when he ran it, before you guys came and got involved, was it kind of a one-man band as far as him on the business side, at least?
Yeah, on the business side, like handling, you know, estimates and invoices and proposals and all that. It was him while he was still doing all the field. You know, he was doing everything. He had a couple of guys in the field with him, a couple of good core guys. But as far as fielding all the phone calls and emails and proposals and all that, yeah, it all fell on him while he was installing the floors also.
So how was that transition then when the two of you came on board? I'm assuming you guys both kind of came on at the same time, but maybe not. But either way, how was that for your dad, kind of, you know, letting go some of the reins and letting you guys take over some of the responsibilities?
Yeah, so we are very fortunate to have him as our, you know, boss and father, because he gives us a ton of rope, and he really trusts us, and he's always the first one to say, "What do you guys think? What do you think about this? What do you think we should do?" And you know, he knows that we're part of some business groups and listen to podcasts and read, you know, business and self-development books, and he's always willing to hear what we have, you know, any kind of opinions that we might have. So there was never really any friction, and with him like relinquishing, you know, any kind of
control or anything like that. Yeah, he was the first one when I came on the job. He threw the tools at me, and he was just like, "Here, let me teach you," you know, and taught me. Same thing with Nikki, and kept going, and there was never any friction with that, and there still isn't, you know. Me and Nick work really well together in the sense that now we know what we like to do in the business, and we have separated those two things to fulfill each other's roles. And he does what I'm weak at, and I do what he's weak at, and therefore we could play to our strengths, and then like kind of divide up the labor here, because like you said before, my dad had everything on his plate. So now it's like a weight's been lifted off his shoulders and things are getting done more efficiently, faster, and we can get back to our clients in a timely manner now, both with starting work, finishing work, and getting their proposals and anything that they really need. So it's been a really, really good transition in the last, I would say, we've been on for, I think, 9 and 10 years. So
Very cool. So what are your roles? Or, I mean, do you have defined roles? Does one of you handle, the operations side more than the sales, or do you each kind of tackle a little bit of everything?
For the most part, Anthony handles more of the field work, and I handle more of the back end office, insurance paperwork, proposals, estimates, invoicing. And we're both equally involved in the logistics of just all the moving parts that go into, from what needs to get loaded into the trucks, what guys are going where, what time, what place. So that we share the role with like the logistics part like that, but he handles more of the documentation in the field, going to the job sites prior to us starting the job, making sure that everything is properly recorded and documented for the guys to pull up the Google Drive folders while they're there, and there'll be minimal questions. And that's pretty much how we've been splitting our role as of probably really 2 to 3 years ago. I think COVID played a big role in that for us, and it forced us to take that step back and while we had the time to devise these roles, because before that, we were kind of just all sharing everything, and
Sure.
the ball was constantly being dropped on everything because there was no one to hold accountable to it, really.
yeah, that was huge. That was really big when we were able to define things and not have everybody on every task. That was a big, big difference.
Yeah. In my business, we're still figuring that out, to be honest with you, but it's a struggle, right? To go from doing everything to finding your silo, so to speak, and what you're good at. And you mentioned it earlier, you each kind of focus on your strengths, and the opposite party helps with the weaknesses. And that's a beautiful thing when you get to that balance.
Yeah, it really is. And like Nick was saying, COVID was like a blessing in disguise for that, because it let us really, like, we were staring at each other in the office for weeks, and we were like, okay, so what are we going to do? And we divided up who's good at what do we want to do. He made different SOPs for all his different stuff, like for estimates and what takeoff program he's going to use and how he's going to document it and how he's going to get back to people. And I made all my SOPs for when I go to jobs. How do I document every single thing that we're going to need, so that I don't get phone calls when the guys start and they have everything they need? Because that was a big pain point for us when we went to a job and it was just like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I've never been here before. So, it was a bit of a blessing in disguise.
When you're recruiting and bringing people in, well, first, congrats on having SOPs. Most people don't have, what standard operating procedures are, or how to do anything, or have it documented. So that's got to be huge for you guys. And how have your guys really taken to that, by being handed something? Like, how do they feel at having, everything documented for them?
So the SOPs are still a very, very work in progress at this point. They're, we have, I would say, an outline of what we really, really need. But as far as like my documentation goes, because I could see it in my guys' hands, I give them the sheet that they need for all the information. I give them videos and pictures and everything like that. And the guys that are receiving it, they love it, because there's so much information there, and they feel confident and comfortable when they roll up to the job, and they know exactly what they have to do. Because if the super comes in there and asks them, hey, what are you doing with this room and that room and this area, they know how to answer it, rather than being on the back foot and then having to call me or Nick and say, hey, what are we doing, like under their breath, and not being confident as they should be when they walk on a job site. So it's been great for that. And recently, one of our lead foreman has really taken to it, and he's really into it and looks at all the folders and all the documents, and it's been paying dividends.
Nice. Yeah, especially like being in Manhattan where a building could have 100 stories, right? To make sure you're on the right floor in the right wing in the right section of a building, and going to the right place. That's like you can get lost in some of those buildings, I'm sure.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, definitely. And some of these garages and loading docks in these buildings in Manhattan are like, the size of the size of like Walmarts sometimes, and it's like mazes. They're huge, and there's like, thinking of one of the World Trade Center buildings, it's like underground roads, and there's left turns and right turns and stop signs, and yeah, and there's different checkpoints, and it's mind blowing. It's all underground too. So like we try and document as much as we can to eliminate as many questions and confusion as we can.
See, that's what I mean, man. We work on some big projects. We have, even downtown Detroit, there's some big buildings, but there's not that shit, right? So that's really cool just for me personally to hear about it, because I've never seen anything like that, so you guys get to see it every day, and it's probably, old hat to you, but it's cool to hear about. So Nick, you had mentioned a minute ago about, your guys open up the Google Drive. Is that kind of what you're getting at here? So you kind of have a file on Google Drive for each project, and it's got, the videos and the everything you kind of mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that Anthony worked on. So we would make like a Google Drive folder for each specific job, and then within that have, a sheet of the overall scope of work, all the information about that project, who to contact, what floor number, where the electric is, things like that. And then within that folder also have videos and pictures of the areas that we're working on, or areas that, might be like an electrical closet that we need to have access to, or where some of our equipment will be tied into. And it also in there will be like pictures of the loading dock and what it looks like. So because there'll be on any given street 6 different loading docks, and sometimes the addresses are not clearly labeled on the loading dock themselves. So by having that picture of the exact loading dock, it gives them a reference point to be able to hold it up next to it and be like, yep, this is where I'm going, because it's not always cut and dry with the addresses.
Guys, I think that's a absolutely brilliant idea. We work with a lot of subs who we've worked with them for 30 years. They're good old boys. I'm not going to name them because, God love them. We need them. But there's times when those guys will show up to our site, and, if the foreman's not there, they're like kids lost. Right. And kind of what you touched on earlier about being able to answer the superintendent, confidently. They may not even know what the hell job they're at. Right. And it's like, guys, come on, time is money. Everybody's spinning wheels, but to have something like that on board, like your Google idea, that's pretty powerful stuff. I got to commend you for pulling that out.
Well, thank you very much for that. And like, I can't say that it's an original idea. I heard it from somewhere, I can't remember, and we just took it and ran with it. And the whole basis around what we talked about during that like pause that we had during COVID was like, how do we become the sub that the GCs can't live without? And that was part of it. And also getting back to people quickly and building an actual business that GCs feel confident with, and building owners feel confident with going with.
That's so important, right? Because for me as the GC, I'm not on site all the time. I can't be. I've got guys there, but I have to know from my office that every trade partner we have on a job is doing exactly what you just said. We can trust them. We don't have to be fly specking everything, and you build your confidence in you guys, but you build confidence in everybody else about you guys by doing that.
Yeah. And that's part of our like ethos at the company, is just, we want to be the problem solvers. We want to be the people that make things happen and get the job done and have a very high standard of quality. on every job site. And that's what we always strive to do, because that's how Dad did it. And that's how we're going to continue to grow into the future. And that's what we're embedding in our guys every single day. And it's just, it's cool to see it all happening.
Oh, I bet.
Well, and you started with a really good question, right? Like, how do we become the sub that GCs can't live without? And I think far too often people don't ask a good enough question to get a good enough answer out of. So, and having things like that, one of the other things is in attracting, great people, right, that want to work in construction to your company, right? Like, and having and showing the people that like being a blue collar guy is a good thing, right? It's admirable. It's something to be proud of. And I know that's one of your missions as well. So I guess tell us a little bit about that and how you bring guys on and really try to empower that blue collar professional.
So yeah, that's something that we really want to focus on, the essence of what being a blue collar person is. There's nothing bad about it. There's a lot of like negative connotations about it. It's an amazing thing to be able to do something with your hands and be able to look at what you're doing or what you did and say, I did that. We built that as a team. That's the biggest thing that we're trying to push forward, not only in our company, but just in the trades in general. Like, we want to promote the trades because it could, there's different things that can come in, robots, remote control, everything like that can eventually put up drywall and eventually put in insulation and everything like that. And it's something that we want to promote, saying we need people to do that. We need people with skills to be able to build buildings and pass these things down to future generations. It's very, very important. So when we take guys on, that's how we're explaining it to them. Like, you're learning something that is no one can ever take away from you. You're learning something that you could perfect and become a professional at. And some guys really, really take to it. And some guys are just like, yeah, that's nice. I'm just going to putz around with this and I'm going to push the broom and whatever. And then eventually they may come around. But the guys that really take to it it's incredible to go back and forth with them and to see their growth. And, some guys, we have one guy I'm thinking of in particular, he was a t-shirt presser not 3 years ago. And now he's becoming one of our lead guys. He's, and we're constantly pouring into him all of these things, like, just take pride in being blue collar. There's nothing wrong with it. And it's a great career path for people. Not college isn't for everybody. Going to be in an office isn't for everybody. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for Nick. I did an office job for about 7 months and I couldn't wait to get out and back into the business and back into being dusty, nasty, working on floors, grinding them, and just seeing this project come to life. It made me so happy every single day. I don't consider this work. It's just a great thing to be a part of.
You just touched on a lot of things that we focus on the show. The whole blue collar badass thing, that's one of our missions is to do exactly what you just said, right? Because as a society, we have collectively fucked ourselves on that road. And it's been since the 80s with No Child Left Behind. And you'll get me in a tirade here pretty soon. But, we started forcing college on kids. We pulled shop class out of school. We pulled art class and home ec out of school. And it's ridiculous. And, aside from the intrinsic benefits, like, yeah, I'm with you, man. When you create a building or a product, whatever it may be, to stand back and see that you built this thing, that's an amazing feeling. But on top of that, we have to have people that know how to do this sort of stuff. We have to, because construction goes nowhere. It's one of the few industries that literally can't go away because there's a lifespan on our product, right? Buildings don't last forever. I don't care where they're built. There's always going to be maintenance or renovation or new construction that has to keep happening. So if we allow ourselves to completely be void of folks who want to be in the trades, who want to be dirty in the field and building stuff, we're screwed. So I don't want to turn this episode into me standing on a soapbox and shouting with you, but I'm with you on that end, man.
No, I would join you because like it's true. It's true, man. Like there's nothing deplorable or anything. There's nothing wrong with being blue collar. It's a proud trade. You know, it's a proud thing to do. You're working with your hands. You're building a skill. You're like, think about like what Jordan Peterson says, like all of the things that make society work, electric, plumbing, heating, everything is all done by people that we don't even think about. You walk into a room, what a miracle it is to turn a light on and it works every single time.
Yep.
Like that's not something that we should forget how cool it is and how proud you should be to be able to do things like that instead of just like, I don't know, doing whatever else. Like I would go along with you for the next hour.
I think that's one of the big things, especially like, you know, being in New York, being in Manhattan, you know, those are big buildings, right? Those skyscrapers, to put some of those things up, and like Freedom Tower, like it's an impressive feat, man. And to have a toilet work on the top floor, right? It's like a big deal to push water up, you know, to the top floor of those buildings. Like to your point about not taking things for granted, like running water, you know, and especially in some of the buildings that you're in, like it's impressive that, you know, what they do. Like for one of the projects that I did past life, we renovated a building in Manhattan for an office, and there was no way to get like power to it. And this building had been built old. It was like early 1900s. So there was like, for power risers and stuff, like initially this building didn't have anything. So they took an old stairwell and then ran like bus duct and all the internet cabling and everything else through the center of the stairwell, because that was the only way to like get it up. And then they, you know, they still had egress and everything else. But it's just amazing for like being in New York, some of the old buildings and things that have been renovated or tacked on to make it work, and for those buildings to, you know, keep their kind of historic preservation intact, but have, you know, modern amenities inside them. I'm always just amazed, you know, and what you're talking about with the underground stuff, and like having to take a left turn underground is just like foreign for us, you know.
Yeah, one of the cool things that we were in recently was a truck elevator that can hold up to 60,000 pounds. So I mean, just
Holy shit.
a big garbage truck going into an elevator, going 30 feet below ground, coming out into a gigantic parking garage where there's just like, there's probably 15 different elevators and loading docks and industrial size garbage dumpsters down there. And you know, the engineering behind all of it is really incredible.
Absolutely.
And you know, if the things that I always end up taking pictures of and everything like that on my Instagram is always like you were saying before about it must be like an old hat to you. Like I actually just posted something yesterday where it was like the views that we are privileged to see never get old. Never ever get old. I constantly, and my phone is constantly out taking pictures of the city. I love all the views that we get to see, whether it's like Nikki saying that in the loading dock, like the amount of engineering that goes into that, or like we're on the 80th floor and you could see the whole city. Yeah, it's incredible what we get to see.
And that goes back to the blue collar, you know, being proud of it, because without being blue collar in the construction field, we would never see views like this. Like I'm constantly taking pictures and sending it to my wife, friends, and you know, there's no way of having these types of views unless you work on like within that company on that floor, because the security to get into these buildings is extremely tight. You have to be on a list. The list has to be in, you know, 24 to 48 hours in advance. You have to show ID at the door. You might have to show ID again at a second door. So there's no like just walking in and going into the elevator and going to the 70th floor. So without, you know, being blue collar, we wouldn't have experienced some of these, the most incredible views in the city that not everybody would be able to get to see. Yeah, you can go to the Empire State Building and, you know, World Trade Center and things like that and still have amazing views, but there's so much more to the city than just what those guys can see up there.
That's such a good point. You know, that being in construction and doing these types of projects, that we get to see things that, you know, most people don't, right? And then the variety of projects that you're exposed to, go into different parts of the city, different views. You know, every day can be different, depending on what jobs and projects you have running. So with that, like in bringing people in to the trades, like, is that something you guys focus on? You were saying you brought a guy from pressing t-shirts to, you know, now he's doing floors. How does like maybe the recruitment side of your business work and bringing people, you know, into the trades?
Yeah, so I would say mostly ours is the recruitment side is word of mouth through our current employees, that, you know, they'll know just through day-to-day conversation with us where, hey, we're looking for a guy for this, looking for another guy. Does anyone know anyone? And we find a lot of our people through word of mouth from our current employees, family, friends. And, you know, it's great because they have an understanding of, our employees give them like a firsthand look of what the company is about and what the work might be like and the hours and the environment, things like that. And you know, if their friends agree to it and like it, then they come talk to us. So it's like kind of like a first stage like vetting of the future employee.
That's the best way to do it, man. Because if you got somebody who's going to vouch for you already, you know, that really takes a load off of somebody looking for a position. So overall in your area though, how is the labor market? I mean, across the country, it's been pretty tight. I assume it's got to be pretty tight there. You guys, you know, do you have problems finding people?
You know, it's not really a problem finding people. We can, you know,
Finding the right people.
yeah, if we, you know, put out any kind of ad on any kind of like employment website, we're getting flooded with emails and you know, opportunities to hire people. Most of them don't stick, but we could gather people relatively quickly if we wanted to.
Okay.
But like Anthony said, it's about finding the right people, obviously, that, you know, have the same views and drive that we have and want to have within our employees as well.
Gotcha. And that makes sense.
Now, we haven't really talked much about what actually you guys do. So you want to fill us in on, you know, what's the kind of main trades, main service and product that you guys provide?
So we specialize in self-leveling cement, epoxy floors, and concrete grinding and polishing. So we do all hard surface stuff that's not related to like carpet, wood, tile, all that kind of stuff. We don't do any of that.
Yeah, and the way I like to explain it for people that might not really understand, like concrete polishing is what you see in Costco, BJ's, Home Depot, Lowe's. It's just in essence, making the concrete shine and have a desired refined look to it. As far as the self-leveling, that's our bread and butter. We do that the most, and there's a lot of capabilities with that. Like if a lot of times you were mentioning you were in a building from the early 1900s, we come across that all the time, and the floor is just destroyed from, you know, 60, 70 years of just new tenants just moving in and out, and it just gets beat up, and the concrete slab is not in the best shape. So we would be able to come in there and add a layer to it with this self-leveling compound, only about a 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch thick, and give that space a new floor that goes right on top of the existing subfloor. And from there, the build outs can continue, whether it's for carpet, ceramic tile, wood, or just anything, drywall, whatever. It gives them a nice, smooth, flat surface where there's no safety hazards that might come about, because sometimes you'll walk into a job site and there's just craters, holes in the concrete just from removing whatever was previously there that, you know, someone could turn an ankle on, or a wheel of a cart get knocked into and cause a piece of glass to fall over and break, and just dust and debris to get caught in. So when we do the self-leveling there, it gives them a perfectly smooth and flat surface, and it's just easier to clean. Also, a whole list of things. But another thing that we do is, with the self-leveling, is we'll level MRI rooms in hospitals. So these MRI machines are literally over $1 million, and they need to sit on a perfectly dead level surface so that, you know, they can operate correctly. And so we're able to go in there and read the room with lasers and make that room basically dead level, so that if you were to put a marble on the floor, it wouldn't roll in any direction. It would just stay where it is. So that's always rewarding, knowing that we can, you know, provide that type of a service for these life-saving, life-changing pieces of equipment.
I got to imagine that's a hugely technical pour when you're doing it, you know, for the MRI or the medical rooms. You know, you mentioned lasers and all that. That's pretty neat to hear about. I've heard about self-leveling concrete only in the sense of, you know, the homeowner grade crap for fixing holes in your basement. I've never seen it in production like that. So does it, not to get too granular, but I'm curious, does it actually bond to the existing floor, or is it mechanically bound, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's like anything else, and it's all in the prep. The prep work is the key to everything. You know, when you mentioned the homeowner grade stuff, a lot of the products that are on the market are sold in Home Depot, just, you know, in a lesser degree, but they're there. And the reason why a lot of the homeowner installations fail is because they're not doing the actual proper prep to the substrate that these materials require. So when we go into a space that requires self-leveling, you know, we diamond grind, which are actual little pieces of diamonds that are in metal that hone and grind the concrete, and we clean it of any kind of debris that was previously on it, whether it was carpet glue, adhesive, thin set, anything that might be there, and basically take whatever was there to basically new looking concrete. It looks brand new when we're done. And then from that point, we apply our, you know, adhesive primer and go from there. But it's that prep work that makes everything work.
Yeah, that's what makes the whole system bond. It's like Nikki's saying, it's all in the prep. If you don't have that, then like you said, there's gonna be no bonding, and it's gonna just blow right off the floor.
So, and that makes a lot of sense, and that is probably why my attempts at self-leveling patches in my basement never worked, because I just gave it a quick, you know, sweeperoo and then dumped the shit on the floor. But when you guys do it your route in the correct way, now if, let's say I move out and, you know, the next tenant comes in, is it a process where you have to redo it all, or is it basically new concrete that withstands a normal lifespan from that point?
I would say it pretty much will withstand whatever you're gonna do to it after that, you know, unless for whatever reason it's taken a substantial beating or anything like that.
Sure.
It's a brand new slab.
It's not as hard as concrete.
Right.
It's definitely much softer. So like it will scratch much easier than concrete would. But yeah, to continue like a build out on, as long as the prep was done right and it's well bonded, you're good to go.
Very cool.
I can remember years ago when I was in DC in the like Capitol building, you'd see these big divots in the stairs just from where everybody had walked for, you know, the past couple hundred years. So it's like I can just imagine some of the buildings that you guys go into, you know, that are 100, 200 years old, and they've been beat up substantially over the years.
Yeah, well, for instance, on the topic of self-leveling in old buildings, we're doing a project now that is 3 old buildings in Lower Manhattan that they're combining to make one building. So all of the buildings are slightly off from each other, and we're being called in to make all of the floors level so that they can do the build out, install carpet, do whatever they want to do.
Wow. So is that all primarily laser driven, or?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
It's all, and it's not like a typical, like, I mean, I'm not gonna say you can't do it with like a spinning laser, but we use basically like like it's similar to a water level. It's a gas meter, and you go around and you could pinpoint every single area that you want on the floor to where you want it to be.
Yeah, and this laser reads it to within 1 millimeter. So
Wow.
it gets very, it gets it down to the millimeter.
Very accurate.
precise.
How much of that can you pour a day with a normal sized crew, or, is there a limit to it based on the product?
The limit would be just logistics of the whole space. You might have a 20,000 square foot space, but the general contractor can only give you 5,000 square feet because he's got
Sure.
trade everywhere else. But we've done upwards of 20,000 square feet in a day with it, and that's moving at a fast pace in a big wide open floor. But some of the technical, like MRI rooms, so something like technical like that, you might spend maybe a day or 2 full days doing from start to finish in the size of 2-car garage. So it's the more technical stuff like the MRI rooms, those take much more time versus just making something smooth and flat.
Okay. So you can start and stop though on larger pours. Can you bulkhead it off with you said it's only 3/8 of an inch thick. Is that how you do it, or?
Yeah, so it depends again on like the project itself.
Yeah.
So if you have like an underlayment that's just getting carpet on it, yeah, you could put a bulkhead up wherever you want, like go for it, wherever you and the GC decide. But if you are doing a finished floor, we're gonna go in and put a sealer on, you're either one, gonna not want to put any seams in there and do it to where it's monolithic, or two, strategically put the seams where either nobody's gonna see it, or you agreed upon it with the client and they're cool with it. So it really depends on the project.
Gotcha. And I'm just getting kind of geeking out on it because I do this kind of stuff too. So it's cool to me to learn, the ins and outs of how it's actually put down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is cool. And, this is not to like toot our own horn or anything, but whenever like our trade, not maybe us, other friends of ours also are on the job site doing, concrete polishing or self-leveling or epoxies, we tend to draw a crowd. It's not like a huge crowd, but maybe like 1 or 2 people that are always asking questions, because it's not, and this isn't a knock, but it's not like just painting, it's kind of, it's cool to see a destroyed floor turn into, a piece of art at the end of it and the process that goes into it. And again, it's not a knock on painting, but it's just a different side that is not on every single job site.
Absolutely. I'm one of them who will come around and watch it. So I get it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty mesmerizing, like especially when you start to see like colors and other things go through like concrete and just that come to life. Like they're mesmerizing is probably the key word for it.
Yeah. The before and afters are really what get me the most.
And with that, like, so over the past couple of years, with splitting out your roles, really being set and having those defined roles and really looking to grow the business, what's kind of been maybe some keys that you could pass on to our listeners, our audience, that really helped you to be able to grow, to be the guy that the GCs can't live without. What's been some of the secrets, if you will, that have really worked for you guys?
Again, I would say that this is all like a work in progress still for us, because we're nowhere near where we want to be. I would say what's currently working for us is, for lack of a better term, just like trying to develop standard operating procedures, trying to be more systematic, but at the same time understanding that stuff's going to happen and we got to adjust and go for that.
One thing that's worked for me, and I know Anthony as well, is reading. I was never a reader in school. I would do whatever I could to spark notes, any kind of reading assignment or any kind of essay that had to get written. I hated it. I would try and avoid it as much as I can. And that wasn't until about probably 2.5 years ago now, where I heard Andy Frisella say that just take it 10 pages a day, 10 pages a day. And that like clicked with me because it really made it bite-sized, bite-sized pieces that I wasn't overwhelmed by looking at a book and saying, one day I'll read it, one day I'll read it. By doing 10 pages a day, I can step back now and look at, however many books I have. And really that's what has helped us grow the company, because we're reading books like Traction, E-Myth Revisited, and within those books, that has for us really taught us how to take a step back from working in the company to working on the company. And I highly recommend those books to any one of your listeners if they haven't read them already. They're game changers.
Yeah, I would say, building on that, personal development in general, like whether you're a business owner or you're not, like it's huge for your life. Like that changed our whole perspective on life in general, how we spend time with our wives and kids and everything like that. It's a whole different ballgame when you start exposing yourself to those things, and also being a part of masterminds and mentor programs and all that kind of stuff. It's so invaluable. Like, yeah, they're expensive, but you have to get into these groups in order to grow yourself, and then you could grow your life.
Yeah, and also, for us, our commute from where we live to Manhattan is about an hour and a half to 2 hours one way. So podcasts have been huge for us. And I think it's called mobile university.
Yeah,
It's like a term that people use for it. And we've just listened to countless hours of business podcasts, self-development podcasts, real estate podcasts, anything to help us grow ourselves. And that's been one of the biggest takeaways from this profession, is just making use of our commute time and not listening to the radio station, which plays the same 7 songs over and over and over again, commercials. And so that was huge for us also, and still is.
Yeah, without a doubt, I've gotten way more out of reading and podcasts than I did in college, period.
Yeah.
I would 100% echo and agree with that. I don't have nearly a 2-hour commute, but I was the same way. I didn't read anything. Even in college, I tried not to read anything. And it's been, for me also, about 2.5 years since I started kind of taking that journey. And I can't say enough good things about it. There's magic in what happens when you start actually learning about shit you want to learn about, right? Yeah. It's not like learning chemistry or, calculus, where it's being shoved down your throat because you have to. When you make that honest choice, like, I want to change, I want to get better, and here's how I'm going to do it. I think that's where that real power comes from.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Especially, and it's like, it doesn't matter what you're like doing every day. It's just like you said, once you make that choice to like make yourself better and learn about the thing that you're doing, you will grow very quickly. Might not seem fast in the moment, but like when you look back on it, you're like, wow, look where we were and look where we are now.
Yeah. And so I read a lot. I'm actually looking at some of the, like you mentioned, Traction and David Goggins' book. Like there's, a lot of things that you can learn in the books, and, you become smarter, right, for having learned or read through or listened to somebody that's gone down the path before you. And a lot of, like Andy Frisell talks about. He's like, I'm not a smart guy, but I read a lot, right? And you read, a couple thousand books, you probably learned a thing or two, and done it without having to do it the hard way, right? And you're learning from other people's mistakes, figuring out how to apply it to your business, your life, your situation, whatever that might be. And yeah, I recommend a lot of books to a lot of people. So but for business, Traction is a great one. E-Myth is another great one. Those are probably the two highest recommended. If you're really trying to get out of the day-to-day, those are the probably two best books to help you do that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that.
So guys, we're kind of pushing up on time. This has been fun, man. These go faster and faster, the better conversations they are. But where can everybody find you?
So you can find us on Instagram at Abbruzzese Floors. That's our main page for the website, for the company. And for myself, I'm at Abbruzzese, Abruze. That's my personal.
And for me, I'm at ANTABRUZE. And then on Facebook, I'm Anthony Abbruzzese, and you'll see on our Instagram how to spell our last name. It's a lot easier than me saying it out because nobody's going to pick it up.
I'll put all the links in the show notes, guys.
Oh,
yeah. So if you didn't catch that, it'll be in the show notes. One last thing that we ask everybody is of construction, right? There's tons of problems, moving target, all the time. But what's maybe one of the problems, concerns that you guys see in the industry, but also, what are you doing to try to help solve it? So it could be labor, it could be just education, like a lot of things out there to solve. But what's maybe the one that comes to the top of your mind of biggest problem and what you're working on to help solve it?
I would say for me, it's going back to that, making people proud to be blue collar, because somebody comes on the job and they're just like, oh, I'm in construction, I'm getting dirty every day, I'm this, I'm that. They're like, they're not like seeing the opportunity in it. And once they see the opportunity and how much they can grow and learn and become, then from there you can address all the other problems of life, your finances, your relationships with people, everything like that can grow from there. I think the biggest problem in construction right now is showing people that it's totally worth being in, and it's not anything to be shunned down or looked bad upon or anything like that. And it's something that we can easily turn around with the correct leadership and the correct just guidance on, hey, no, you come on now as a helper or a laborer or whatever you want, and from here you learn and grow, and it's not like this you're here forever.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, I would say with labor, a lot of things are being pushed towards technology. Like you go to a supermarket these days and there's no one at the cash register. You check yourself out. So it's very rewarding for us to be able to provide jobs for people in our communities, and that would be able to help them support their families. And that's a big problem that I see is the loss of jobs due to the increasing technology, which I'm all for. I think there should be limits to some things. We can't lose every job to technology just because we can, because we have the technology. So that's something that's rewarding for us also, is being able to provide the jobs for our communities.
That's huge, guys. And honestly, Dillon, I think we should have him back on and do a show 100% based on the last 2 minutes of what we talked about. And it might be like a 3-hour-long show. So buckle up.
Sounds good.
Oh, it'd be great.
Or yeah, on the technology thing, I have software, but at the end of the day, people still need to oversee a lot of what we do in construction. As much as we want to automate design, again, that's what I do, but somebody still needs to look at it. It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be details that, a computer's not going to be able to pick up on. There's going to be, like in your world, some weird corners and shapes and things in different places that, robots not going to be able to handle. And being in some of those buildings where things are not level, right? Robots don't do quite well in unlevel areas, so you're always going to have opportunities in that for people. And really, I see more robotics being assist type things to have a person to help get more done and do it safely. If you can put up drywall overhead with a assist, that adds 10 years to that drywaller's life. And
Yeah,
there's
of course. Yeah.
other tools and stuff out there. So that's my big take on the technology side of it. But any last things you want to leave our listeners, guys?
This was our first podcast, so
Awesome.
we didn't do too bad on it, and look forward to many more.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And I would totally agree with that. And, definitely the thing that I would say that has really changed our lives and the way that we met you guys is relationships and constantly trying to grow yourself and your family. Like for me, it's our family. And that's been the biggest key thing for us as people. So always try and grow, always try and level up your relationships, and you'll meet really cool people.
Yeah, I switched mine to that. That was a lot better. What he said.
All right, guys, we covered a lot of ground today, from personal development, getting better personally, to, having a mission to help the family, to providing jobs, to bring in pride to the trades, the pride to being blue collar. And there's nothing wrong with construction, as we will continue to say on the show for years to come, that construction is a great place to be. It's a great place to provide careers. It provides a lot of jobs, builds our communities. Manhattan wouldn't be Manhattan without the buildings that make up, Manhattan. So guys, thank you so much for coming on today. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate you taking the time out to and for this to be your first podcast. So I know that you provide a lot of value and really help people to, some of these little things, right? From Google Drive to standard operating procedures, like all those pieces to really help your guys and empower them to be the, best possible versions of themselves, on the job site and in life. So thank you guys for coming on. And that is this episode of the Construction Corner Podcast. Until next time.